News next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and John Cass, johncassnews.com. John is in for Amy this morning. John, have you had time to identify your favorite Kendrick Lamar song from last night's halftime show?
I'm sorry. I did not watch the halftime show.
You didn't? Kendrick Lamar, he's quite popular. One of his...
A rapper?
One of his big hits is Money Trees. I'll give you a sampling of the lyrics. Me and my N-word, try and get it. You bish, you bish, you bish. Hit the house lick, tell me, is you with it? You bish, you bish, you bish. Home invasion was persuasive, was persuasive, was persuasive. From 9 to 5, I know it's vacant. You bish, you bish, you bish.
It's like Cole Porter.
Now he does it better than I do. I'll grant you that. But it's hard to pick out a song that I enjoyed the most because it was just, was
there a lot of pelvic thrusting?
No, it's not that. It's just sort of one long-running talk-singing cacophony. I don't know. There's a big event like the Super Bowl with so many eyes on it, and corporate messaging and entertainment messaging, if you will. There's a lot of fodder for cultural commentary. That's all I'm saying.
I was busily going through the garage trying to find some broken chairs that I might send to my friends in Chicago to get ready for Mike Scott's big snowstorm.
Ah, yeah, right. The DIB system. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing could have been, in terms of cultural messaging, the PSA that the NFL decided to platform was Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg that we've talked about before. Yeah. Here it is in case you missed it, because I know you want to be lectured to by these two on race relations as much as humanly possible.
I hate you because we're from different neighborhoods.
I hate you because you look different.
I hate you because I don't understand you.
I hate you because people I know hate you.
I hate you because I think you hate me.
Because I need someone to blame.
Because you talk different.
Because you act different.
Because you're just different.
Vote Democratic.
Man, I hate that things are so bad that we have to do a commercial about it.
Me too.
Me too, man. Yeah.
I can't quit you, Tom Brady.
The death throes of DEI, maybe that was that. Hopefully it was. Something they could have done a PSA on.
What?
Was what we were talking about last week quite a bit, the NAEP scores.
Oh, yeah.
For 4th and 8th graders around America. Both talked about them both in terms of the national numbers as well as the Illinois numbers. Let me give you yet another national number. The percentage of 4th grade black kids who do math at grade level. Number one in the country, the percentage of 4th grade black kids who do math at grade level. Number one in the country is Texas with 27%.
Holy.
Illinois is 19th with 18%. The range is 5% to 27% nationally, state by state. Black kids, 4th grade, doing math at grade level. And now, as we talked about, the soft bigotry of low expectations has hardened and expanded. It's across the board. It transcends race. Because even though white kids are doing somewhat better in math and reading in 4th and 8th grade, it's not great. There is no good news here. It's terrible news, actually.
When the revolution comes and some angry black leader, like, think of Malcolm X on steroids, comes out and decides that swaths of the population must be put to death. You can look at this time and think, when you look at the Chicago Teachers Union and all their horse poop, how many lies can they tell? When sooner or later the lies can't be told anymore because people won't be able to work, and all they can do is steal from you.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, just in terms of the PSA opportunity, I mean, how about focusing on K through 12 education and the future as opposed to this sort of invented problem that black and white adults have in talking to one another, which is not a real thing, generally speaking.
It's not.
Something else, too. What are the teachers' unions doing in the wake of these numbers? The teachers represented by their unions. Well, let me give you an example. I mean, they're on the job. They're on the job in Chicago, threatening a strike if they don't get more staff, more librarians, and
they gotta have a strike.
Other such wraparound services. And they're doing the same thing here that they're doing in New York, and that they're doing in a lot of suburban school districts, too, a lot of the honky districts in the suburbs as well, doing the same thing, focusing everybody's attention on making sure that teachers do and administrators doing as good a job as they can in running interference with ICE. Here's the message from the United Federation of Teachers in New York.
Knew their rights and knew they didn't have to let ICE in. ICE went away, and so this can make all the difference in the world. So rights are, if ICE comes to the home, you do not have to open the door. In fact, you should not open the door. I asked the question during one of the trainings, if you open the door but leave the chain on, is that considered opening the door or leaving it shut? And I was told that could be interpreted as allowing ICE in, and so you should keep the door closed, remain silent, say, I plead the fifth, and choose to remain silent. Now, we know many of our families, or some of our families, if they're home, they may not be able to say these words in English. And so there are something called red cards that that are also on our resource page that can be printed for free. They look like this. I apologize.
And it's wonderful. The only problem is that so many of their constituents won't be able to read what's on those red cards. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Ian Rowe. He's the founder of Vertex Partnership Academies. He's also senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and visiting fellow at the Woodson Center. Author of the book Agency, the 4-point plan for all children to overcome the victimhood narrative and discover their pathway to power. Ian, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan and John, great to speak to you this morning. You know, as I was watching the Kendrick Lamar performance last night, you know, seeing listening to the lyrics and the messages that were being sent, I thought about the data that you just shared. You know, 4th grade black kids across the country. You know, the highest performing state is Texas. 27% of black 4th graders being able to do math at grade level. And the worst is Wisconsin, and then you see what's unfolding across the screen with all black performers, mostly black men, and you just realize we're so upside down on what we should be focused on, especially at cultural events like this, like the Super Bowl. We actually have an opportunity to focus on what's really important.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they had a PSA or somebody stepped forward and said, just a message out. I mean, to all kids, really, but particularly, yeah, particularly if you wanted like a black athlete to have a message for black families. Look, 99.999% of you are not going to become Saquon Barkley or Pat Mahomes or Travis Kelce, but you can become an accountant and you can work in banking or real estate. And so forth, but you can't do it if you can't read and do basic math. So this is where we need to focus everybody's attention right after the Super Bowl game.
100%. And, you know, we're now at a point in terms of looking at our education results nationally. Not only are we confronting very low proficiency rates, reading and math proficiency rates across all races, we're now making records of the worst proficiency rate. So in 8th grade math, we had the worst performance. 33% of kids, all kids across all races, are now what's called below basic in 8th grade math. In 8th grade reading, sorry. And in 8th grade math, 49 out of 50 states decreased in performance from 2019 to 2024. And the only one state that was exceptional. They just showed no change at all. So we're at a point right now, and we've known this for years, and finally we're questioning the federal Department of Education, what its role should be, if it should exist, because hopefully folks are finally realizing the apparatus that we have to improve educational outcomes in this country is just simply failing.
The Department of Education, we spoke with your colleague Rick Hess on Friday, and he made an important point that I just want to restate because there are a lot of understandably concerned families, that if the Department of Education went away or was a shell of its former self and some of its functions got repurposed to other agencies, and what the secretary can do within the purview of the legislation that animated the Department of Education, she did in terms of repurposing some funding. IDEA and Title I funding will still flow. It may not flow through Department of Education. It could flow through HHS, but that's important for families with kids with disabilities and schools that provide the IDEA funding. So that's one thing. It's just like we're talking about with USAID. The money is not all illegitimate. Some of it you can make a strong case for, and it also has been authorized and will continue to flow. But we're Trump is sort of rethinking the paradigm here, and one of the things that's exciting, that's being widely rumored with respect to Department of Education's budget, is to create a federal tax credit scholarship program to provide choice to kids and families, particularly in states that don't currently have choice programs.
Yeah, anything we can do to push the power into the hands of individual parents who then have the resources to then choose the school that they believe best fits their child. That's what I think the framers would have supported, because in the Constitution there is no mention of a federal role in education. There's this concept of subsidiarity that the framers had. And, simply subsidiarity principle means that local government should do only those things that individuals cannot do for themselves. State government should only do those things that local governments cannot do, and that the federal government should do only those things that the individual states cannot do. So the more that we give parents who know their context, who know their kids, let's empower parents. And that, to the degree that there is a federal function in education, if there has to be one, then everything should be geared towards that outcome, which is empowering individual parents to have the resources and ability to choose the right school environment for their kids.
You're not just a policy wonk, you're a practitioner. Vertex Partnership Academies, I note your logo features the cardinal virtues, which is something that is not talked about much in the government schools that I'm familiar with these days. Tell us about the Vertex Partnership Academies, your model, and the possibility of scaling it.
Yes. So you mentioned the teachers union earlier in your comments. We opened our Vertex Partnership Academies in 2022, and the teachers union sued us to try and shut us down before we opened. But sometimes David beats Goliath, and we beat the teachers union. So Vertex is a virtues-based international baccalaureate public charter high school in District 12 in the Bronx, in New York, in the Soundview section of the Bronx. This is a district where only 7% of kids graduate from high school ready for college, which is just a crime. And we wanted to build a world-class high school, especially in this district, educating primarily low-income Black and Hispanic kids. And one of the very first decisions we made was to organize the school around the 4 cardinal virtues of courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. Because if you run schools, you are in the moral formation business, right?
Yes.
So if you don't have a deliberate approach to it, you're doing your kids a disservice. So courage, we have what we call our I statements that all of our kids memorize and ultimately internalize. So courage is I reject victimhood and boldly persevere, even in times of uncertainty and struggle. or temperance is I lead my life with self-discipline because I am responsible for my learning and behavior. And the idea is that our kids, our students, first learn these words in their head, but ultimately they embody them in their heart for how they lead their lives.
Do they repeat it every day, like in school?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, the things we recite every day are the preamble to the Constitution, we the people. Right. And the reason we do that is, Alexis de Tocqueville had this great phrase where he said, what makes America is not that America is more enlightened than any other nation, but that it has the ability to repair her faults. And I've always loved that statement because it suggests that our country has the tools of self-renewal and the tools of self-betterment within its founding documents, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. And the reason we like our students to recite the preamble to the Constitution is that we want to remind them that within themselves, they have the tools of self-renewal and self-betterment within themselves. So this idea of oral recitation is extremely important. So we recite the preamble to the Constitution every day. We recite the Pledge of Allegiance at every assembly, and these 4 cardinal virtue I statements are constantly repeated and rewarded, when kids are acting, reinforcing these behaviors synonymous with the virtues.
How are you going to get parents? How are you going to shame parents into bringing their kids to this school? Because if we wait, because we don't have time to wait. We don't have time to wait.
Well, your question is how do we get well, very exciting at Vertex. I mean, this year we'll have close to 700 applications for about 130, 140 open ninth grade seats because you only take kids in ninth grade. And so the demand is high. Parents, particularly parents who do not have choice, are desperate to provide a great education to their kids. We got to give kids a shot.
I agree.
Ian Rowe, we need more Ian Rowes out there. Founder of Vertex Partnership Academy, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, visiting fellow at the Woodson Center, our friend Bob Woodson. Author of Agency, the 4-point plan for all children to overcome the victimhood narrative and discover their pathway to power. Agency is Ian Rowe's book. Ian, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
Dan, thank you. Thanks, John.
Ian Rowe joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about the